Morning, everyone. We're discussing this morning here on Morning Call this idea from Newport. Very early stages, but it's something they're thinking about as they think about the street sex workers in the city, about where it's best for them and where it's best for those other people who live in the city for those sex workers to operate. There is, at the heart of all this, an admission that there will always be street sex workers, and for many that is the only choice, or one of very few choices. And so where is it safest for them to operate? What's the safest way for them to work? But also what's best for the other residents? As I put this to you from one of the local councillors, Councillor for Pill, Omar Ali, who said that he'd been to various police discussions and says that the police have always had an issue with prostitution on the main drag in Commercial Road, the High Street in Newport's Pill area, and says it's early days in terms of how best to support the community with these problems, but was concerned that residential areas were being used to sell sex and that vulnerable women were not safe, and that they're thinking about how the prostitution in Pill can be dealt with. And one of the options, one of the things that's being considered, is moving those sex workers away from Commercial Road, where it's very visible, to an area where people otherwise wouldn't go in the evening, and managing street sex workers. 03700 100 110 if you think that's a good idea. Timothy in Newport has joined us on Facebook with an absolute view, and it's one that many will share, which is very simple. It's that prostitution is wrong, whether it's legal or illegal. People should learn how to respect themselves and others, is what Timothy says. Sue's texted to say, I think prostitution should be legal and managed. This is long overdue. And Sheila in Killeen has concerns about Newport. Newport's going to the dogs, says Sheila, and this will help it on its way. 03700 100 110. This is an anonymous comment as well that's just come in on the phones now. I just saw this call being taken from someone who wouldn't go on the air, but said that if they're going to put everyone down in the Pill area of Newport, if I had a daughter going to study in Newport University, this is the last place I would send her now. There's a lot of student accommodation in that area. 03700 100 110. Non in Cwmbran, Barry and Swansea, morning to both of you, and good morning as well to Cari Mitchell from the English Collective of Prostitutes, which also caters for those sex workers in Wales. Good morning to you, Cari.
Good morning.
Hi there. Non, do you want to go first here?
I think legalising it or managing it rather than criminalising it is long overdue. I mean, if you get them into a designated area that's managed, so I think it's a win-win situation for everybody, for the residents who don't want to see it on their streets outside their house. Also, if they're in a designated managed area, the police know where they are. If it's managed properly, the police know exactly what's happening in that area, and also you can identify some of the people there who are doing it to fund a drug habit or who are vulnerable, and then they may be able to access help more easily. Or some of the people who do it, they have got complex problems, and by managing it and people knowing exactly where they are and what they're doing, it should be used as well to offer these people help, the ones who need it. And also, I think managing it would help to eradicate the pimps and the people that abuse them and profit from abusing these girls. I also think, perhaps legalising brothels in a designated area would be the way to go. I think providing a brothel is managed appropriately and above board and following guidelines and whatever, it's a lot safer place for these women to work than on the streets. You know, they're all together, they're indoors, and I just think it's long overdue. I just think it's the best way to go, really, because you are never going to stop it. And we have got to protect some of these women who do it because they have complex problems, you know, and a lot of these women have children as well. So by being managed and they can be identified, they can get help, their children can get, their families can get help, you know. It's just, they're not criminals, these girls who do it are not criminals, you know, they are the victims.
We were talking in terms, or it'd be forgiven for thinking that all prostitution that goes on at the moment is done with a fear of the law. But I think this is an observation that Barry wants to make here, and to pick up on something that you said, Non, that brothels should be legalised. Well, they are, aren't they, Barry, already? I mean, or at least every town, or most towns and cities in Wales, will have places where women work as sex workers without fear of prosecution.
Yeah, it seems that Swansea's got it right here. I know of at least 4 in the city centre, which, well, if I know them, they're there. But I presume the authorities know that they're there. And I went to an event where a council official and 3 policemen turned up before we got there, but they wanted £20,000 a year. So maybe that's the way.
Well, sorry, who wanted the money?
The council.
Oh, what, as what, some sort of licence or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sex on the premises, yeah.
Yeah, and so with the other side of the coin on this is that if you have a brothel, massage parlour, whatever you call them, and they are in built-up parts of towns and cities, some people have to live next door, nearby. Is that a problem?
Well, they're all I mean, people know they're there, and there's little signs or whatever, and people say, I don't know, I've never heard of any trouble. Oh, that's not true. One got burned down, I think. I mean, they're there. People know that they're there, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Let's put this to Cari Mitchell. We are talking, aren't we, about, well, the majority of the sex workers that we're discussing, street sex workers, as women for whom operating out of one of these sort of quasi-legal massage parlour brothels is not suitable. Are we, Cari?
Well, first of all, that's terrible that a place was burnt down, and that's absolutely shocking. And did the police investigate?
Well, I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know if it was I don't know if it was a deliberate act or an accident or done because of what the building was.
Okay, that's a terrible thing.
Yes, it is. I mean, yes, it's terrible.
It is much safer for women to work indoors. It's 10 times safer to work indoors with others than to work on the street, because on the street, there's a very big stigma associated with working on the street, and the police are basically often don't prioritise women's protection and are more focused on prosecuting women. And it's good news that at least in your area now, the police are acknowledging that women shouldn't be prosecuted.
But
however women are working. But the fact is that if women are forced to work, are taken out of the area where they all at the moment are very visible, and they have the eye of the community on them, which is a very big protection. Sometimes women are attacked. Women have come to us and they've been attacked and they've shouted out, and someone from the local community has come down and helped them, and that is what has saved them.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's very dangerous for women to have to work, in a semi-industrial area away from the eye of the community, because there aren't people to look out for you, and violent men know they're much more likely to get away with things, and that is what in fact happened in Ipswich before the murders of women there.
I want to talk to you about Ipswich. I want to ask you about that example, and I need to speak to Jamie quickly, who's here at 10. So Jamie, what have you got today?
Ollie, good morning. Yeah, in for Jason at 10 this morning. Boy says to girl, you shouldn't be in school, you should be in the kitchen making the sandwiches. This morning, sexism in schools. We speak to the mother of a teenager banned from going on an end-of-term school trip. after she stood up to another people who made sexist comments. So is this just a bit of schoolyard fun, a bit of banter, or laying the foundations of a sexist society? Also today, it's the thing gardeners dread finding. Now the government has waved the white flag in the fight against Japanese knotweed. It says it would cost £1.5 billion to wipe out. Britain's most celebrated allotment gardener Terry Walton ponders if we can ever now rid Wales of this damaging plant. And he was the member of the House of Lords in charge of standards, apparently taking cocaine with prostitutes. He's stepped down from his responsibilities, but should Lord Sewell resign from the House of Lords too? Jamie in for Jason from 10 this morning here on BBC Radio Wales.
Thank you. Cari, we'll come to Ipswich in a moment. But while Barry is still here, I just want to ask this question that many will be asking, and that Barry seems to be as well, or getting towards, which is that if we already have known houses, massage parlours, brothels, whatever you want to call them, which are tolerated or whatever their legal position is, but that they are places where sex workers can safely, or at least with a great deal more safety, operate. Why aren't all these sex workers operating from places like that?
Sorry, who are you asking?
Cari.
You're asking... Well, first of all, not everybody wants to work indoors and pay money. Many women who work on the street want to just go out, get the money that they need, and then go home again and not have to pay anybody else for the rent of the room indoors, and to work very sort of regular hours. But also one of the main problems for women who have worked outdoors and would like to work indoors is if they have a record, very many people who run premises, indoor premises, don't want to have women who have records for loitering and soliciting, outdoor records, to work in their premises, because then there are differences between, not differences, there are divisions between people who work outdoors and indoors, and it's very difficult for women to move. It isn't impossible, but it's quite difficult for women who have worked outdoors to work indoors, because many women have a record. And one of the things that happened in New Zealand when they decriminalised there was that they wiped everybody's records clean, so that women could not only come off the street and work indoors, but come out of prostitution and work in any other job without having that record behind them, which prevents one from getting into other jobs. Because once you have a record for prostitution, under sexual offences, it's very hard to get another job. And that's one of the things that keeps women in prostitution and prevents women getting out if and when we want to.
Thank you. Cari's going to stay with us. Cari Mitchell from the English Collective of Prostitutes. Thank you to Non. Barry, do you want to make another point before you go, or are you happy?
Well, I just make one point. Years ago, I was on a ferry going over to Hamburg and talking to a DJ there. He said there's no sex crimes in Hamburg because they have a big red light area. In Swansea now, we've had a number of cases in the local press here in the last few weeks of women being molested, whatever. Personally, I would go down the line of organised places to go. I think that's probably better all round, yeah?
Yeah, well, the big question is where those organised places are, though.
That's true.
And that's the big question. And this is what Cari's been talking about, whether they are, by their definition, best off being visible. Thank you to Non. Thank you to Barry. Here's Dean. Dean in Porth. Hello, Dean.
Oh, hi. Yes. Basically,